Welcome to EST Afternoons here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. We got a fun show coming up for you on this Friday. But first, I am Hernan Salas, joined by my co-host Joaquin Gage, and behind the camera, it's the one and only Zachticum. Zachticum, you got to show the people your jersey here.
Oh man, this thing is actually insane. It's pretty crazy. Let me just
we'll give you some time. We'll give you some time here. We'll just tee up the show. Of course, you can listen to us live on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, tune in radio, iHeartRadio, or watch us on the EST YouTube channel. Get in there on the Nasty Chat or hit us up on the Edmonton Sports Talk text line at 780-218-9999. And we're coming to you live from the William Huff Studios here in the West End of the city. Today on the show, we're going to recap Thursday Night Football. Travis Dermott is official, as the Oilers announced that about an hour ago, and the Young Guns tournament gets going as the Oilers are in action on, let's see here, I think they're in action tomorrow night as they take on the Calgary Flames. Young Guns. We'll have Dave Alters. We'll continue our NHL previews. We'll go to Toronto to talk everyone's favorite, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And at 2:20, we'll have Danny Austin from Post Media in Calgary. We'll talk Flames and Stamps with him, but it's going to be a fun show. Zach, you all ready to go there?
Yeah, so I'm going to pop this up here. I mean, it's Friday the 13th. I don't know. I'm wearing a clown jersey. So basically, the reason I'm wearing this jersey is because it has number 13 on the back. I don't know if I could show it on the camera.
There you go.
There it is.
And it says Clowns. It's Krusty the Clown for those listening on iHeart or TuneIn. And then I had to wear the Flyers hat just to match the color. I'm not calling the Flyers clowns, just for the color combo.
Good choice. Hockey team, different hockey team in Edmonton. Way to set yourself up for more abuse, Zach.
More
That's
abuse.
Great.
I love it.
Hey, Zach, can you put my headphones up a bit here?
Yeah, I got you.
At least it's the season hasn't started, Zach. But hopefully, Zach was just trying to color coordinate today, so take it easy on him.
And the corduroy pants.
Yeah.
Like this guy.
Yeah, he's not sneaking up on anybody today.
Hey, he did mention it's Friday the 13th. It's the first one of the year. And did you know that when it's the first Friday 13th of the year, it's National Blame Someone Else Day?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh?
I blame Tommy.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's easy. That's easy. But
were you a big fan of the Jason Voorhees movies?
Yeah, the first one. I'm old though, so that scared the crap out of me. Those were scary. Those were really scary.
There's so many now.
Yeah,
There's like 15.
And it's the same stuff now. And
like the first three are classic. Anything after that is just garbage.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you watch that first one late at night, Home Alone. That'll scare you. That'll still scare you. But speaking of corduroy, it just it reminded me of my son. This is way back when I was taking him to swimming lessons and trying to give my son a little independence. Like I was obviously watching him, and then he's in the dressing room, and then I go out while he gets ready. And I was probably sitting outside the room with looking at my phone, and not unlike Zach coming down the hallway, I hear this zit, 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 zit. And I look down and I look at him. I go, Bodie, what are you doing? And he's got on these corduroy pants. I go, those aren't yours. He just put on some other kid's pants, and they were corduroy. And the only reason why we didn't leave with him is because he was making noise coming out of the room. But no, I don't have corduroys anymore. I might have to get a pair of those.
If Zach shows up in a corduroy suit at the Estes, you're going to win the best outfit. That's legendary.
Yeah. I don't think Maddie would like that. That was my plan originally, to show up or like in like some overall kind of old school. I don't know. Like some
Maddie can't control what you wear.
I know. I'm my own man. Look at my Krusty the Clown
Put some jersey. As long as there's elbow patches on the jacket, I think you're fine.
Oh, the elbow patch is classic stuff. When it comes to the scary movies, if you had to, like back in that time, because we're close in age, it was Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger, Halloween, Mike Myers. If you had to rank them the scariest, where would you go with that?
There were some of those supernatural ones, like those Hellraiser ones.
Yeah.
Those were weird. Like,
but those three are classics. Like the music.
The the ones that Freddy Krueger scared me because he came at you in your dreams.
In your dream.
Yeah. So that was 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Like, and oh my gosh, we used to scare kids at private school when I went to Notre Dame. Like, someone got a Freddy Krueger mask and had the fake hand. And so we would go at what's called new boys rooms, like first year guys.
Yeah.
And they'd be sitting in their bunk and we'd all be sitting back, like they'd be asleep. And the guy would be putting the nails or the knives, plastic, but across the kid's face. And then we'd be all in the back, 1, 2, Freddy. And this kid would wake, and we'd hit the lights, and they'd see the Kruger mask with the shirt. The kid would freak out. Those were super scary. That one, Mike Myers. I'm trying to think of another one that was really, really scary.
For me, Mike Myers, like the music of Halloween was the creepiest.
Yeah,
like that's the best scary song in the history of scary songs.
Yeah. Those old slasher movies were super good. The Saw ones were good too later on. I liked the first couple Saws because they were
just different,
right?
Yeah.
They were kind of gross, and there was always that end scene where it just went nuts. But I don't. It's funny because my wife hates them.
Yeah.
But because she hates the supernatural stuff. Like, I made her watch The Grudge and The Ring, but it was like during the day. Like, she won't watch them at night.
The ones I hate that are newer are the Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Because that can really happen.
No, it can't. Whatever.
You just don't know. Calvin C says Stephen King's It messed me up. Laugh out loud. Jen says Michael, Freddy, then Jason. So I'm kind of with her. I think Jason. Now that you're older, like the Jason Voorhees, the Friday the 13th are the cheesiest ones.
They're pretty cheesy.
Yeah, because Freddy, like you said, it was like I don't want to. When you were a kid, it's like I don't want to fall asleep, especially if you're watching those movies. And how many of our listeners? Freddy Krueger costume was probably the most popular and the most used back in the day. I think everybody was Freddy Krueger at one point.
Brian Englund, is that the actor's name? Like, famous for it. But it was because didn't he the parents of the town took him and cooked him alive in the boiler room.
Yeah.
And then he went after all the future generations and stuff like that, right? I mean, the one movie that really some of those Stephen King ones were really tough too. The Christine. I don't know. I read the book as a kid.
Yeah.
I was in the basement or whatever. I had to go up and sleep in the living room beside my parents' room because I was so scared reading that book.
Reed brought one up when we were prepping their Child's Play, Chucky.
Chucky was Chucky. Jeez.
And again, you watch that now and you're like, how was I scared
of this thing?
So, keep sending in those scary ones here. Jen also says Texas Chainsaw Massacre scares the crap out of me. That's another classic one. Even the new one's pretty good. The new one, I think it came out a few years ago. Pender's Pancakes agrees with you. That is a creepy one. I think of the book you're
Christine.
to.
Yeah, you want to scare the pants off you. Go get like Christine or even Cujo is a really scary book. I read a few. Misery scared me. It was weird or whatever, but some of those old Stephen Kings. I never read it though.
No,
that was a little bit too much for me.
Awesome stuff. Well, let's get to some sports and some news here in Edmonton as the Edmonton Oilers made it official. We've been talking about it all week. Travis Dermott officially signed to a professional tryout. I was talking with Tom on the Oil stream. I'm going to go on the record and say I think he's going to sign. I think with the Darnell Nurse news, he's a guy who has a lot of NHL years under him. He can play in that third pair. He can play both sides. For me, it's just PTO right now, but he will sign that 1-year deal worth 8, 9, whatever. Might be $1 million. But I think this guy's as good as an Oiler right now, Gage.
Well, I think it's just the fact that Darnell Nurse is nursing something, pardon the pun, from last year.
Yeah.
The odds of them getting the first thing we thought about was, why is he left shot? Why wouldn't they look for something on the right side? But Darnell plays the left side.
Yeah.
Looks like he might miss some time. Who knows? I mean, if it gets to a point where Darnell Nurse comes in late, maybe whatever, number 4 or 5 of the exhibition season and still doesn't feel right. There's probably a good shot still has to perform though, man. If he can't,
Yeah,
he's not going to come in here and float, obviously, but still have to see something and see how he stacks up against guys that are currently under contract too.
Yeah, you can't come in here and have be a minus player in the 4 exhibition games you're going to play, right?
Can't have a Broberg training camp.
No, not at all. Not at all. You can't get beat out by it. Yeah, and again, he has the upper hand because there's no one from the young group that's coming here to push. He's going to be that 7-8 guy, and he's probably going to moonlight in the third period if Darnell Nurse can't go. So Travis Dermott, something that's been talked about for the last week or so. It's official. He will join the Oilers on a PTO. Some other news, kind of to a lesser extent. Marcus Niemelainen, Nemo, who impressed in his first go-around with the Oilers with the big hits. He heads to Germany, 26 years old. This is a guy that kind of, we all thought he would be he was maybe that second prospect after Broberg that we thought could take the jump, but he was surpassed by Vinny Desharnais, and Vinny never looked back, and Marcus just never got another opportunity.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate because that guy hit like a truck.
Yeah.
He was actively hunting other players to lay the boom on him, right? I mean, obviously I didn't have a lot of time viewing him and always wondered why he wasn't another call-up, but from what I heard, puck movement was an issue. Just not
Big
getting,
time, yeah.
and he just couldn't move the puck at a quick enough pace where, there was a really massive jump from I'd say when Vinny got called up, even throughout that season, but to the next year, he became a much better puck mover, and it wasn't like he was a bad one when he first got here, but he improved that part of his game. But I think, and he was physical. I won't say like there was some meanness in Vinny that I really liked, but not the ability to make open ice hits. And there's always something about that being on the ice with a guy that you always have to watch out for. The Oilers don't have one of those guys.
Yeah. They don't.
And I'm trying, there's not a lot of them around, but like that Trouba. Like Trouba, you gotta make sure you got a head on your swivel, or your head on a swivel. Yeah. When you're on the ice, or if you're cutting across the middle, you got to make sure what side he's on first.
And we were talking with Tom when Nemo first came into the league, he was catching guys.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But the second year, it was a harder time because I think guys were like, "Watch out for this guy, head on the swivel," like you said.
They knew when he was on the ice and what side they were going to. That's how good players are, right?
Yeah.
So, but even. Like I played with Nicholas Kronwall when he was in Sweden, actually, and he was blowing guys up on Olympic size ice like that. It's hard enough to do it on just NHL size ice, but to be able to do that on the big ice, crazy, just crazy.
We're just ahead of David Alter from the Hockey News. He's covering the Toronto Maple Leafs, everybody's favorite team. We're going to check in on them as they get ready for their start of training camp that kicks off on September 18th. Just a few more here about the scary movies. Jasmine on the inbox says the first Conjuring was scary as F. Cole Harbor Joe says Oculus scared me even as an adult, laughing out loud. And Rob the Plumber says, hey guys, how about the Evil Dead series 1 and 2 were pretty creepy. And the third one, Army of Darkness. Come on, that was great for a laugh. Great show, Rob the Plumber. I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of the movies that I just read.
There's another one I think that was around that time. Was who was it? Event Horizon, with Lawrence Fishburne. Like dark hell, like going through a different. It was really scary. Like a spaceship went somewhere, came back, and brought back all this weird stuff from a dimension of demons, and that scared the pants out. So if you want a good sci-fi one that'll scare you in space, that one's good.
Yeah, and for the people of my age, I guess, there was one in the 80s that scared the bejesus out of me. It was called Witchboard, and it was with like a Ouija board, and the spirit was called Davy or something. One of the scariest movies I've ever watched. If someone can, I think it's called Witchboard. I'm not 100% sure, but the spirit was Davy. Let us know on the Nasty Chat or on the inbox at 780-218-9999. But we got to get to a break here as David Alter is coming up. here on EST Afternoons. He's Joaquin Gage. I'm Hernan Salas. We'll be right back. Here's a sports update with Zachticum.
Travis Dermott has officially signed a professional tryout with the Edmonton Oilers. Dermott, 27, played 50 games for the Arizona Coyotes last season. And hockey's back tonight. The Edmonton Oilers rookies take on the Canucks rookies out in Penticton. Puck drop for that game goes at 8:30. And in the CFL, the 6-6 Argonauts will face the 7-6 BC Lions out in Vancouver. That game goes at 8 p.m. tonight with kickoff. Over in the NFL, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson is listed as questionable for the game against Denver. Wilson sat out last week during the team's 18-10 win against the Falcons. Ravens cornerback Nate Wiggins is ruled out for the game against the Raiders after being involved in a car crash. Ravens coach John Harbaugh says, quote, "He's healthy, he's fine, and that he's just not going to be able to play." That game between the Ravens and the Raiders is Sunday at 11. Just after the break, Hernan and Gager will welcome in David Alter from the Hockey News to preview some NHL and talk some Leafs hockey. I'm Zachary Kubusch, and now you're up to date on Edmonton Sports Talk.
Get ready, Edmonton. The moment you've been waiting for is here. It's time to celebrate the best of the best with the Esties as we honor everything from Edmonton Sports Talk's incredible first year. Join us on September 17th at Metro Cinema for an unforgettable night of excitement, laughter, and recognition. Tickets are just $10. Secure your spot by emailing matt@edmontonsportstalk.com. And after the show, let's keep the party going at Hudson's White Ave for the official after party. Mark your calendar, grab your tickets, and get ready to celebrate the best moments of EST. It's the Esties, September 17th.
If you've been injured in a car collision, let James H. Brown and Associates, Alberta Injury Lawyers, protect your interests. They'll be there every step of the way to help answer your questions and help you get your life back on track. Trust Alberta's precedent-setting injury lawyers with their unrivaled experience, unrivaled results, and unrivaled commitment. When accidents happen, call James H. Brown and Associates, Alberta Injury Lawyers, 780-428-0088. Or go to jameshbrown.com.
At A&W, you can start the morning off right with a regular coffee and an egger of your choice for just $4.99. Bacon and egger or sausage and egger on a seeded bun or an English muffin? The choice is yours. But we know it'll be tasty either way. And to make matters even more delicious, this offer is available all day. But don't snooze on this deal. An egger and a regular coffee for only $4.99 is a limited time price. Available at participating A&W restaurants in Greater Edmonton.
Edmonton Sports Talk, static free since 23. Welcome to EST Afternoons. He's Joaquin Gage. I'm Hernan Salas. Zachticum behind the camera here at the controls, producing the show. Let's get those. Let's hammer that thumbs up here.
Yeah, might as well.
Let's get the views up too. Come on, tell your friends.
Please.
Tune in to Salas and Gager. We're just waiting for David Alter to join us on a video call to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, the news they made this week was PTO for Max Pacioretty. Sounds like it's going to turn into a signing that's almost guaranteed. And I feel the same way about Travis Dermott. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. But Toronto always never short of a storyline in Toronto, eh, Gager?
No. There's always, when there's no hockey news, there's always something coming out of Leafland.
Just go to Toronto. Just go to Toronto. Like I said, Max Pacioretty will be on a PTO. They've also brought in Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Stanley Cup winning Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And the biggest addition for me that I like is Chris Tanev. And then they also brought in Anthony Stolarz, another player that's coming off Stanley Cup, to play with Joseph Woll there. I really like Chris Tanev. I know we're always kind of criticizing Toronto for bringing in these older defensemen like the Giordanos and the Brodies and all that. But Tanev, for me, is a guy that can still play and does it all.
Yeah, this guy's not afraid to block shots with his face. I just, there's a lot of mileage on that body now. And he probably plays, barring any time that he just can't stand up. He's going to be in the lineup, I think. And that motivates your team. It's something to rally behind. Very sought after at the trade deadline last year. Good pickup for the Leafs.
Yeah. Are we good here with David Zach? So we bring in David Alter from the Hockey News, covers the Toronto Maple Leafs. David, thank you for taking some time this Friday afternoon. Let's get right to it. The big news this week, well, it was kind of late last week into this week. Max Pacioretty on a PTO. Sounds by all accounts that he will end up signing there. Where do you see him fitting in this Toronto Maple Leafs lineup?
Hey, Dave, I think your mic is muted on your side. Sorry about that.
Sorry, can you hear me now, guys?
Yes, here we go.
There we go. I really think that could go anywhere. If Max Pacioretty can recapture his point production from old, then there's no reason he couldn't play on the top six on the wing there. But probably what's more realistically is maybe third line or kind of mixing things around there and kind of being a utility player. It's really going to be just what type of player Max Pacioretty is following consecutive Achilles injuries, right? The Leafs are optimistic that this time around he had a full off season to rehab, where before he was just kind of working on the off season of recovery, where now he was fully recovered from this injury when he was with the Washington Capitals this time around. And so he was able to skate in front of the Leafs and work on the conditioning and not just trying to get better physically. So there's that. There's the age factor, being 35 now, that they have to kind of weigh in. So I think he could be a top six guy, but really it's going to come down to how he looks compared to others and just the real battle that there's going to be at training camp here with some of the other depth wingers.
What do you think it's going to be like with the change behind the bench with Berube? Is there going to be, I don't want to say more accountability, but I mean, these guys, most of the core players of this team have had one coach for the past number of years. What do you think the response is going to be? And now that they're maybe a more mature team, a more veteran team, is that kind of accountability what this team needs to maybe add a little bit more sandpaper?
Well, I mean, that's certainly what the Leafs are hoping for. They're hoping that their core guys are now at that peak maturity, peak performance age, that mid to late 20s, and some of the other things that they sprinkled in. And they're hoping that the voices in the room are going to be enough to change the culture in there. And so the big one is Berube in terms of a different type of head coach, at least one that's going to be maybe a little bit more defensively focused. One of the big quotes from him is he's not looking to outscore the opponents, which is maybe part of the Leafs' identity, especially in the regular season in that regard. And so you have that, and you have the change in captaincy to Austin Matthews. Maybe there might not be a lot different there, but maybe when push comes to shove and someone's got to speak up, maybe Matthews isn't so deferential looking at John Tavares in the room and will actually just, do or say what he feels needs to be said without looking at, respecting the elders in the room and those kind of things. So, this is a team that has always said the right things going into every year, and for one reason or another hasn't really been able to get over the hump, and the head coaching change might be able to do it. But really the question that going into the season is this enough? Despite the fact that the core really hasn't changed, is this really enough when the core has really been the same for many years now?
David, looking at the defensive side of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've added two big acquisitions here in Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Both guys a little bit older now. We all know what Chris Tanev can do. I mean, he just puts his body on the line, and Ekman-Larsson had a really nice bounce back in Florida there. Are you at all concerned about their age and maybe the wear and tear on these two defensemen?
I mean, it's a legit concern, mostly because of the term, not necessarily what they're going to do for the club this year, right? I do think from an additional standpoint, Chris Tanev is exactly what the Maple Leafs need in terms of defensive identity, someone who can play in a top pair, could play in a mid pair if needed. Maybe is the solution is a right-handed shot as well that can kind of gel with someone like a Morgan Rielly, but if not, maybe goes into that second pair. To me, the bigger question is Oliver Ekman-Larsson, because there is going to be a little bit more of an expectation, where last year the expectation was little to nothing after being bought out from the Vancouver Canucks, and certainly did step in, but is he going to be enough of a mid-pair guy? Is he going to be a regular bottom pair guy, and is that the commitment you want from multiple years? Certainly with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, this is someone the Leafs are hoping they could have had in John Klingberg, but didn't last year.
Right.
So there is that element to it. And other than that, they really like Simone Benoit in a depth spot. They really like Jake McCabe where he's at. And of course, Morgan Rielly's Morgan Rielly. So all things equal, this should be a more improved defense. But this year, I think it's going to work. It's just going to be those subsequent years. And really, there's no reason to look at that position and say, yes, that's where the Leafs are most improved. It's the goaltending and maybe some of the other depth adds on forwards that really is the big question mark.
Speaking of goaltending, Joseph Woll, a few injuries that have hampered kind of his progression. What do you hear from the coaching staff? Is this Woll's net to lose, or are they looking for these two to battle out and try to find the true guy that's going to be number one? Or is Stolar's kind of just that safety valve if Woll unfortunately, if he does get injured again, or maybe can't find his game at the beginning of the season? When
you talk to those close to Woll, they feel the former, where he's shown that he's capable of doing it, but certainly questions to his injuries and availability is a big problem, right? Like he wasn't able to play in Game 7 when needed in that big first round series against the Boston Bruins, and there's certainly that question of dependability. And then you talk to people close to Stolarz, they're like, well, don't sleep on Stolarz. And certainly a lot of the big sell is the opportunity that was available for someone like him. And to add further, the Leafs added or extended Matt Murray for 1 year at $875,000 with the belief that because of injury concerns and I think Carter Hutton said it, that he's worked with him. They're both from Thunder Bay, and said that that's the best he's seen him look in years. And so certainly there's injury questions as well, but don't be surprised if you see Matt Murray get some games in there because of the caliber of goaltending he can bring when healthy. And obviously that's a big question as well. So there's a lot of bets and there's a lot of they don't know. And look, the Leafs are not in a position to anoint anybody right now because no one's proven it with a long enough track record except for the guy who's the de facto number 3 right now in Murray and is not able to stay healthy. So Stolarz and Woll don't have a long enough track record. And the guy who does is often injured. So they're just going to play that game and kind of see what sorts itself out and hope they have enough depth in the position that there is no drop-off when one guy goes down.
David Alter from the Hockey News joining us here on EST Afternoons. Joaquin Gage, Hernan Salas. Speaking of the new captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews, incredible year last year, 69 goals, so close to hitting that 70 mark, 107 points. Is it just, are we just waiting here, David, when he does hit 70? It could be this year, it could be the next, because there's not, for me, a better goal scorer right now in the league than Austin Matthews. And it's a little bit unfortunate he couldn't hit it last year.
Yeah, I think he's eventually going to do it for sure. I don't know if this year is the year. We usually, not to say Austin Matthews ever flies under the radar, but like he was coming off a bit of a down year by his standards and was recovering from injury. And you never know the kind of toll that's going to take, and kind of trying to follow up that is really hard. Certainly a 55 or 60 goal season would be spectacular from Austin Matthews again. And certainly he's always looking to add different elements to his game. The captaincy shouldn't change too much, but you never know. It's always a bit of an adjustment in that regard. So I would expect at some point or another Austin Matthews is going to eclipse 70. I think the game is just evolving for more scoring, that those type of players are going to get it. There's going to be another player who gets 65 or even 70 beyond Austin Matthews. It's just the evolution of the game seems to be going where you're going to see these goal scorers show up. It's opening up for sure. So I think that's going to happen, but certainly wearing the C might make him a bit more of a marked man.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it will, because he's defied so many expectations, and certainly he's not going to behave or act on the ice any different. But it's just another year with new talent. Connor Bedard's going to be a year better. A lot of players are going to be a year better too. It's just going to be difficult to actually see for real.
It's always interesting to me because I never thought that someone who wears the C, the burden of it or the weight of it usually doesn't weigh the player down a little bit. But do you think with this move and moving from John Tavares being the centerpiece, because of the success that Matthews has, his goal scoring ability, does that kind of help the Leafs? You know, it is the center of the universe when it comes to the media. These guys are under the microscope 24/7. Do you think that Matthews has the ability to handle the burden of being the centerpiece by having the C, and will it affect him in your mind in any way, shape, or form?
I don't think it will, but you kind of danced around what I think the Leafs are hoping the most positive thing to come out of that, which is that I think it helps John Tavares get his game back.
Right.
Yeah.
Because from a points per game standpoint, last season it was his lowest since his rookie year, and certainly. Not to say he's an $11 million player anymore, or fairly or unfairly, but that's the contract, right? And so when you have that, there's certainly an expectation that he's going to play like an elite player. And that certainly wasn't the case for Tavares at times, and, you know, being moved down to the third line and some of those other things. And that could happen again this year. But I think some of the other extra duties that come with that, with Tavares not having to wear that, will in turn probably help him in terms of focusing on strictly the game and not necessarily all the other leadership stuff, even though he is still going to wear an A and still do all that leadership stuff. I think it just recalibrates someone like Tavares to just try and bounce back and get his game to a point where it really is more of like the Tavares of old on a consistent basis. And that's where I think that helps. With Austin Matthews, I don't see... This is just a reaffirmation of what we already knew about him, right? Like, yeah. I've heard Sheldon Keefe in post games refer to Austin Matthews as our leader, like not trying to muck anything up, but just kind of being a leader, because he was a leader in every sense of the word, except for wearing the C. So I think that's probably the most positive side effect the Leafs could possibly have from this switch, is that it brings Tavares' game to a resemblance of what it was in the earlier part of his contract.
David, one last one here for you. The Oilers just signed Travis Dermott to a PTO. He spent a lot of time in Toronto. I know it's been about 3 years, but can you just give us a quick scouting report on Travis Dermott here?
Yeah, he was a very offensive-minded defenseman, and like a lot of guys who kind of come into it, it's hard. It's most offensive defensemen that make that jump, if they can't get their defensive game down at the NHL level, which is what they really have to hone in on first, they kind of struggle to get some consistency. And that was the case with Dermott in Toronto. And then there were times where he was bouncing in and out of the lineup and he couldn't get to a rhythm before finally he was traded away to Vancouver at the time in the tail end of the 21-22 season. But certainly he can move the puck. He can play well positionally. He can distribute the offense if needed. But it's just one of those things where I think just being around a lot of familiar teammates will certainly help. But it is a PTO in that sense with no practices or no promises, I should say. And so at that point, it's really just, can him being around familiar guys in a good environment like that's been cultivated in Edmonton help bring his game back. And if it does, then it's easy to kind of bring him in on a min deal for some depth D. But that's That's really what it is. He's gone through a lot of injuries over the last little while. And so I think a lot of this is just trying to see if he's clear of all of that and can be the promise that he showed in his draft year.
David, great stuff. Thank you for taking the time this afternoon. Enjoy the weekend, as it will be the last weekend before things get going for real next week. But thank you for the time, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, let's drop the puck, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Interesting there that David said coming up, he was an offensive player.
Yeah.
Right? Because you look at his numbers in the AHL. In the AHL, they were decent, but in the NHL, he's like his career high is 17 points and dealing with the injuries and kind of. I did like that he can move the puck as well. And this is a guy who's watched them.
A lot of guys, when they come in, are drafted upon their offensive prowess, right?
Yes.
So when I hear that, what I like to hear about that is the fact that a guy came from a background of, being the counted guy to score upon, and that's a tough mantle to lose.
Yeah.
Right. And to now have to figure out how to be successful at the next level. Maybe I'm not the best. I'm not going to be the one scoring points every night. I have to be a solid defender. That shows me there's some testicular fortitude of a guy that can do that and figure that out and become a successful NHL player.
I always remember Marty Reasoner in his day with the Oilers because he came as a goal scorer from his younger days. And he goes, that didn't translate to the NHL, so I had to reinvent my game, and he became a solid defensive forward, like a two-way guy.
We gotta. I'll reach out to Colin Fraser. Remember Colin Fraser?
Yeah.
He tells the best story, and he played on that World Junior team with Getzlaff and Crosby, and he said coming to camp. He looked at these two guys and he goes, there's no way I'm playing on the top two lines. And he was a superstar in junior. Like, he was scoring at will. And so he goes, I got to get in there. I got to win every single face-off. I got to block shots. And this is a kid at, 17, 18, figuring it out how he was going to make this World Junior team. It's a great story. And what's even better is they were a tight team and won gold. And I think he played against Getzlaff the next game going home, and it was like a line clearing brawl, and he had to fight him. it was just great.
Well, because almost every player in the NHL was probably the best guy on his team. Right? They had some offensive game, right? But they all have to find their kind of role and niche in the NHL because not everybody's going to be a top six forward.
No, everyone thinks they are, but they're not. Ask their parents at age 10. My kid only plays. I can't tell you how many kids. It's great at that MAC-T tournament when I get kids of 9-year-olds saying, "Yeah, my son plays top six." I go, he can't even count to six.
Oh boy, there's parents like that still, eh? He should be in the top six.
They're rampant, buddy. On
the special teams. Big thanks to David Alter there from the Hockey News as he gave us a good breakdown on the Toronto Maple Leafs and a good little a primer on the newest Oiler. Well, kind of. And did you notice he said Travis Dermott?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So I've been right this whole time.
Well, we'll ask him. He could still be wrong. Yeah,
coming up next, we will recap Thursday Night Football. It was a one-sided game. Buffalo continues their domination, but a big story came out of that game was another injury to another concussion. We'll discuss all that, and we'll get an F1 update as well as we go through EST afternoons here with Joaquin Gage. That's all coming up next here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. Here's Zachticum with a sports update.
Why tee off at the Ranch Golf and Country Club?
A fun, unique layout offering premier conditions. The Ranch has been ranked as one of the top public courses in Canada.
Unmatched value. Score Golf Magazine rated the Ranch as the best value in Edmonton.
The service. From tournaments to special events to the pro shop. Superior service that makes every visit exceptional.
The Ranch Golf and Country Club. A laid-back environment where anyone can enjoy an amazing day on the fairways. For details, visit theranchgolf.com.
Hi there. If you're like me, you like to picture yourself in luxury even though there's absolutely no way you could afford it. And if you can, well, even better. Thankfully, I picture myself in something that is luxury but still absolutely affordable, like the all-new Mazda CX-90 from Park Mazda. With the new luxury features like facial recognition settings and quilted detail Napa leather seating, I can pretend to be comfortable with all of my proper settings activated without even touching the button, thanks to Mitch Lewicki and the great staff at Park Mazda. I like to picture Mitch Lewicki as newborn 8-pound, 6-ounce Mitch Lewicki. You can picture grown-up Mitch or teenage Mitch or bearded Mitch or whoever you want.
Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park off Y Road. Park Mazda does.
Celebrate the grand opening of Sit and Sleep and discover a revolutionary way to shop for mattresses. Stop in today for a free pressure point scan using cutting-edge technology so sleepologists can identify the perfect mattress for you. Right now, you'll get free local delivery on any mattress over $5.99 and receive a bamboo cooling mattress protector. Get grand opening savings now with every mattress on sale. Join us on location today for the celebrations at Sit and Sleep in South Common next to Planet Fitness.
Travis Dermott has signed a professional tryout with the Edmonton Oilers. Drafted in the second round back in 2015 by the Maple Leafs, the left shot D-man played for the Canucks and most recently the Coyotes. The rookies hit the ice tonight in Penticton. The Oilers rookies face the Canucks rookies with the Young Star Classic going at 8:30 p.m. In the Canadian Football League, the Lions meet the Argos with their very own Dustin Nielsen on the call. Kickoff is at 8. Over in the NFL, Russell Wilson is questionable for Sunday's game against the Broncos. He sat out in Week 1 with a calf injury, and it seems like Justin Fields will be getting the start once again for the Steelers. Ravens rookie Nate Wiggins has been involved in a car crash and won't suit up for Sunday's game against the Raiders. Wiggins is the 4th player from the Ravens to be a part of a car crash this summer. And in soccer, Lionel Messi is cleared to return to play at Inter Miami after sitting out for 2 months due to injury. Head coach Gerardo Martino did not say if he will play in tomorrow's game against Philadelphia. And right now, you're listening to EST Afternoons. Hernan and Gager will be back to talk about the Oilers, CFL F1, and the NFL as well. I'm Zachary Kubusch, and that was your Edmonton Sports Talk update.
.46 here on Edmonton Sports Talk. It's EST Afternoons. Hernan Salas, Joaquin Gage, Zach Kubusch here on this Friday afternoon. Seems like the weather is a little bit better than yesterday, so a nice way to kick off the weekend here. Gager, any plans for the weekend?
No, work.
No. Yeah.
Please. Working weekend for me.
Just working weekend.
Yeah.
Because next week, like we said with David, enjoy the weekend because we have NHL camps opening up. The Elks are returning to action. Hoping to have a few Elks on next week. I'll see if my contacts here can hook it up, Gager.
Sweet. Like it.
So we'll see what happens there. But let's get to the Thursday night recap here. As the Buffalo Bills continue their domination of the Miami Dolphins. A 31-10 win over Miami there to 3 picks. You know what's funny? Every time we talk or we have a guy on that's in football or in, I think mostly football, they go out and have a great game. Damar Hamlin, 8 tackles to lead the Bills in that. But no Stephon Diggs, no problem there. We didn't hit our EST parlay. Kincaid, I think, let us down on that one.
What did he finish with?
I think 33 yards. We needed 45 because we had Josh Allen anytime TD. We had Tua for 5 yards rushing. He had 17, and then Kincaid. And you kind of knew when it was getting to
17 too many.
When you're getting to that blowout, you're like, there's no way Josh Allen's throwing the ball, at least 10 more times. You knew they were going to run it out. And then, of course, James Cook did just that. He cooked 3 TDs, 2 on the ground, 1 passing. But the big story here, Tua.
Yeah.
Quarterback for the Miami Dolphins takes he kind of dives into Hamlin there for the extra yardage. suffers a concussion. I mean, the arms go stiff again. He's knocked out for a bit. It was at least a few seconds. Very concerning to see that. And I'll keep reiterating this. Like, quarterback's got to start sliding. I know you want to be tough, and I know you want to gain the extra yardage, but this guy... Game two, exactly. And you have a history of concussions, right? And I remember last year he returned, was it to a game or the next game? And everybody was like, what's this guy? What are they doing there? And it's always an uncomfortable conversation to have because you heard Tony Gonzalez, Richard Sherman, a lot of former players and in media on the good old X machine and on the broadcast saying this guy's got to contemplate moving on from football. But I find it uncomfortable because we're not in his shoes. For some of these guys, that's all they have is football. He's still fairly young, probably wants to continue to play, wants to win a Super Bowl, but at the end, there's life after football, Gage.
Yeah, and I've played with guys that have had multiple concussions, and everyone's different too. Like getting a knock to the noggin, I must have really thick skull because I've been knocked out a couple times, but didn't have the lingering effects of a concussion that a lot of other guys did, and it seemed like the guys that kept having them would wake up in the headaches, and you know the lights they'd have to turn the lights down low sometimes, and unfortunately some guys that I know that I played with that had multiple concussions, there's times that it's tough for them to get out of bed in the morning. Like there's a wave of depression. So those are things you don't think of a lot as a young man. I do remember when Sidney Crosby got a few raps pretty quick, and he got another one that didn't look that bad, but just that whiplash, that the brain, like they show it. You watch those docu series, and you see the brain moving and getting pushed up against the skull, and the way it shuts down, and that defensive posture that you automatically go into. There's some healing that needs to be done for Tua, I think, before, and it's just I think at least right now he needs to sit out the rest of the season. Like it's just automatic when you get a rap to the head that severe, having them so close back together, you need time for the brain to start to heal itself and then come back and reevaluate for next year. But this you don't know what it's going to be like later on in life. He could be, my age and all of a sudden forgetting things and every morning not wanting to do things, treating people different. Like we've all seen the signs of what can happen to professional football players. It's dangerous, man. But I also get the fact, hey, I want to win one too.
And I want to play, and I want to continue to make money. And it's for some of these guys, it's all they know.
Yeah.
And the comparison to Crosby is good because he did suffer. I think it was 2-3 years where it was every year.
But he took out a year.
Right? Yeah. He pretty much sat out most of a year. I think he played 22 games one year, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's a great point. I think almost going forward now, you're not playing them. And I know their head coach Daniels today. Sorry, not Daniels. What's his name?
McDaniel.
Yeah, McDaniel. He was like, I know where you guys want to go with this question, but like, let's just take it, a day at a time, let him decide. But it's sometimes you have to get in the player's way and say, hey, listen, like we're doing this to benefit you. And I know it's easier said than done. You've been a pro athlete. I've been around pro athletes for the last 2.5 years. It's not that easy to just tell the guy, hey, we're going to sit you out for the year because the player is competitive, wants to play. And he might tell you, hey, I'm feeling good. And there's no way of knowing that, right? Like,
I know.
The doctor can be like, well, he says he's good, but is he really good? Does he just want to play? Because I was watching that football show, Last Chance U, during the summer. We had a lot of those guys at Elks camp, so I was kind of intrigued to see them in the young. And these guys, it's called Last Chance U. So all the guys there was a few that would just put their heads through so much just to get that opportunity to go to a power school and become a pro. And it's just, for me sometimes, and it's easier for me saying that here, sitting in this chair, sometimes it's just not worth it for your overall health.
Do you think that, I was thinking about this after it all happened, the team, the player, the fan, like, do you think the NFL has to step in at some point too and say, you know what, you're you're not allowed to play. Should the actual league look to step in cases like this where this could be serious for the player itself and trying to? I mean, they've gotten such a bad rap over head injuries for so long. I wonder if they should take a stance, or do you think they should?
I think they should, and you almost want the team to do it, but the team's there to make money and be successful. And
so
they're going to start, what's his name, Skylar Thompson in week 3. Sounds like they're going to bring in a veteran QB for depth. But again, it's Tua. It's their guy. He's young. He's electric to watch. I mean, out before the injury, he was struggling mightily there with the 3 picks. The third one was just an awful throw, but I think sometimes these teams can get out of their own way because winning is so important to them. And I get it that you're a professional team. You own it. All that matters is winning. But when a guy's only 26 years old and every time he takes a headshot, he goes stiff.
Yeah.
Like, that's scary, man.
That's really scary. When you have that arm go up, that's I've seen that a few times on the ice. Usually a huge hit or someone's getting in a fight, and it's scary. Because even the guy that hits them feels bad. You could see Hamlin going, "Whoa, I didn't."
Like Hamlin was just there to stop him, and he kind of dove into him.
Why would you run your face into my chest here?
Yeah, this one from La Bamba guy says the league, the PA, the union, the team, doctors, anyone should step up. But again, it's not that easy. Like the doctor can be like, "You are not playing," and he'd be like, "But I feel fine. I'll go get a second opinion." And what do you think the owner's going to do? We need to win games. We need to compete.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to want his top guy to try to win. You know, as an owner, I think you have to have your employees' health and at their best interests, right? You can't just use them till you have that mentality. Use them till you can't use them anymore. That's
because the other scary part, and I'm not saying there's a lot of past players in every sport that have suffered concussions, and then they go back at the league, right? And they're trying to get a payout or whatever it is, and they're saying the league never helped us, never. So this is where I'm at. Like, if the league steps in now and says, "Tua, I don't think you should play for the rest of the year," and he and the team as well, and he declines it, then when he's 45 and 46 struggling, then can they look back at him and be like, "Well, we told you. Like, we tried to get you to stop for a year or 2 or whatever it was, but you declined."
Just looking at liability cases and stuff like that. Yeah, it's almost to the point where he needs to sign a waiver to play. And that's ridiculous, right?
I'll say another thing that bothered me, and you're a guy who played pro, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but the game was over. There was like 5 minutes left. Tyreek Hill's on the bench with Waddle, and they're laughing. And listen, I'm not asking them to sit there and be crying and all that, but for me, is like when you're losing that bad and you've lost your quarterback, like and it looks like it was just joking, like they were just having a good old time. Does it happen more often than we get to see, or am I being a little bit too old school here and saying, "Why are you laughing when you're losing that bad?"
I understand, like especially if you're a Dolphins fan or whatever, or coaching staff, you don't want to see. I mean, the old Moneyball scene when Brad Pitt goes in there and starts slamming things because
losing fun.
Is losing, losing shouldn't be fun. Look, I was a guy that handled losses way more aggressively than I did my wins. So I think there is a balance. But again, I didn't play in the NFL with 1,000 cameras on me too. Like, you have to show. I think there's a time and place. It's only game 2, right?
That's why. I mean,
but it won't matter. It never looks good in a losing cause if you're laughing and seem like having a really good time with your team losing like that.
And 2 guys that had terrible games.
Yeah.
Let us know on the inbox at 780-218-9999 or on the Nasty Chat. Well, what do you think of Tua? Is it time to take a year off? Is it time to consider retirement? Or is it totally up to him, regardless of what anyone's selling him, if he wants to return and keep on playing? I want to get to this one on the Nasty Chat. We were having a conversation about kids and, playing top six and all that. Dusty says, I'm projecting Marshall to be a third-line power forward this year.
I think Marshall's going to be more of the next LeBron, isn't he? Or next. I think there's more basketball in him than anything else.
He's got the height.
Yeah. I love the story. Did you hear the story about him, Dusty, playing football with Marshall?
No.
And Marshall called like Hail Mary, and he goes, go. And then he bootlegged. Marshall bootlegged while Dusty ran down the street. And he goes, what's up? He goes, you were covered. So either a great QB or a stand-up comedian. I don't know what it's going to be, but that was perfect.
Dusty's pretty funny. And he was an athlete back in the younger days, right? So the one thing about Marshall, we got to get him an Elks jersey. I saw him with his dad throwing the ball in the street there, and he's got the Calero. So
it's his favorite player, though.
We got to get him a Trey Ford.
Ooh, that would be good. And maybe a Jordan jersey. Who knows?
Nice red number 23. I mean, if you gift it, he can decline it. It's a gift.
No. Yeah, we'll figure out something.
That's going to wrap up hour one here as we talked NFL, we talked Oilers, we talked to David Alter to preview the Toronto Maple Leafs. Coming up in the second hour, we'll continue with some Oilers talk, some CFL, F1, this day in sports history. Danny Austin from Post Media in Calgary will talk Flames and Stamps with us, and then we'll tee up the Reed Wilkins Show coming to you with Jay Milne from 3 to 6 here on Edmonton Sports Talk. This is EST Afternoons. I'm Hernan Salas, Joaquin Gage, and Zachticum behind the camera. We'll be right back.
Travis Dermott has officially signed a PTO with the Edmonton Oilers. Dermott, 27, played 50 games for the Arizona Coyotes last year, and hockey's back tonight. The Edmonton Oilers rookies take on the Canucks rookies in Penticton. Puck drop for that game is at 8:30. In the Canadian game of football, the 6-6 Argonauts will face the 7-6 BC Lions in Vancouver. Our very own Dustin Nielsen will be making the call for that one. Kickoff at 8. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson is listed as questionable for Sunday's game against the Denver Broncos. Wilson sat out last week in the Steelers' Week 1 win against the Falcons as well. Staying in the NFL, Ravens cornerback Nate Wiggins is ruled out against the Raiders game against the Raiders this Sunday after being involved in a car crash. Ravens coach John Harbaugh says, quote, he's healthy and he's fine, and that he's just not going to be able to play. That game between the Ravens and the Raiders is Sunday at 11. Lionel Messi is cleared to return to play with Inter Miami after sitting out for 2 months due to injury. Messi's last appearance for the club was June 1st. And just after the break, Hernan and Gager will dive more into some Edmonton Oilers talk while talking about this day in sports before bringing in Danny Austin later at 2:20. I'm Zachary Kubusch for your Edmonton Sports Talk update.
Hey Edmonton, ready to take advantage of lower rates and better pricing? South Fort Chevrolet in Fort Saskatchewan has you covered. From rugged trucks to sleek SUVs. And with over 40 years in business, you can trust that you're getting the best deal on your new ride. As the proud title sponsor of The Nielsen Show, EST listeners can drive a little to save a lot with South Fort Chevrolet's transparent pricing and down-to-earth sales team. Visit us today in Fort Saskatchewan or online at southfortchev.com.
Few of us can say that we're over 60 and still hot, but Mr. Mike's Burger can. And to celebrate over 60 years of Mr. Mike's famous burger, you're invited to taste history for only $8.99 at Mike Burger Madness. Savor the original flame-grilled Mike Burger on their signature garlic French loaf for a limited time. Dine-in only price of just $8.99. Sides extra. It's Mr. Mike's Mike Burger Madness, and you'd be mad to miss it. Offer ends September 30th. Eat locally, enjoy casually.
Come get your game on at The Ranch. The Ranch lets it all hang out with a championship caliber design, premier conditions, and above all, a fun laid-back experience. Get top-notch service and unmatched value every time you play at The Ranch. think you have what it takes to go low? The best value for your golfing buck is always the Ranch. The Ranch Golf and Country Club. 10, 50, 100, and 200 round packs on sale. TheRanchGolf.com.
Edmonton Sports Talk delivers a mass audience of key, influential customers to your business, all while you associate your company brand with the biggest names, the hottest sports news, and teams from every league around the globe. Oilers and Elks, NHL, NFL, Major League Baseball, and the association, Formula One, soccer, golf. Oh, sweet mama! The excitement is palatable on Edmonton Sports Talk. It's where fans go to get their sports fix and where our partners find the most loyal consumers. Contact us today and see how our team on Edmonton Sports Talk can score the biggest goals for your business. With various advertising options available, email business@edmontonsportstalk.com or head to our website and send a message at edmontonsportstalk.com.
2:04 here on EST Afternoons. I'm Hernan Salas, joined by my co-host Joaquin Gage. Zachticum behind the camera. I was going to say glass again. Reminder, you can listen to us live on edmontonsportstalk.com, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and if you'd like to watch us, head to the EST YouTube channel. Keep hammering that thumbs up. Let's try to get to 100. Why not?
Why not?
We're pretty far.
Where? How?
Like the Dusty show is automatic. Like you're 20 minutes in and
know.
they're at 100. It's like,
He must have like 100 family members. Just like dig, 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 dig. 43. That's not too bad.
That's not.
Oh, that's a Jason Strudwick, isn't it?
Oh.
Is he 43?
He was 43. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. That's a good one. I could stay there.
Yeah, we're coming to you live from the William Huff Studios here in the west end of the city. Of course, if you'd like to chime in on the show, hit us up at the EST inbox. That's 780-218-9999 on the or on the popular Nasty Chat on YouTube. Like I said, let's get those thumbs up. Just give it a like, and let's get the views up as well. We got one text here from Rip City Step. It says, Gage, Hernan, always entertaining, but nice to be able to hear from the former pro and someone who has worked with a pro team. Great convo on the concussions by the two. Unique insights on EST. Loving it. Thank you for that, Rip City Step. And
Checks in the mail.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to get to, do you just give us a quick update on F1? Because you were in there just watching it and breaking it down.
I was ensconced in free practice 1. Charles put it in the wall, and I always get worried about the suspension and stuff moving forward on the weekend, but looked like had a really good free practice 2. Red Bull is, I don't know, man. Both cars seem to be balanced differently. I still think Max is going to have a bounce back weekend.
Was he complaining already in practice?
He was complaining a bit, but no one more than Lance Stroll.
Boy,
that was really funny, saying it's not even a car, and
that does not surprise me.
Yeah, someone needs to check those Huggies because they might be poopy at the end of this.
Is he known for complaining a lot?
Well, I mean, the cars, it's tough for them, I think, because of where the car is. Like, they're 5th in the constructors, so they have a bit of gap from the rest of the pack, but they're so far from kind of the big dogs, so they're in limbo right now, and it must be frustrating because they want to compete. And now with the big Adrian Newey signing, that's it's. I don't know how much of an effect it's going to. It's obviously going to help a little bit next year, but again, it's not until 2 years that you're going to really see the Newey effect kind of take hold and take place. But it should, like that track, it's awesome to watch. There's going to be drama. I'll look on CoolBet and see if there's a little parlay, but I'm sure you're going to be able to. How many red flags there are going to be during the race? I would, over under 1.5. I might give the over just because how tight that track is on certain spots.
Well, because I think Tim said when we had him on Wednesday that there might be some chaos.
Oh yeah. That first corner is a big runoff area, and you're going to get someone sticking their nose in too far, and there's going to be something. Usually there is. So it's going to be a good race, and it means a lot too because the now with the papaya rules, I guess the Zach Brown has finally said that, look, our priority is to try to get Lando the championship here. And
finally.
And jeez. And Oscar is kind of in a support role, but still, depending on how the race goes, he wants to win too, but he wants to be a good teammate. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know what I learned about Tim, our good buddy Tim Hernan? He's a San Francisco 49ers
Yeah,
fan.
You too. Yeah. I don't know if we can have enough room for both of you. I was thinking I was going to be a Niners fan. Now I can't because there'll just be too many of us. And
there's too many of us.
There's too much love for Tim from me anyway, being the F1 aficionado.
The San Francisco 49ers, the class of the NFC, and it's not even close. Let's get to NFL picks. Obviously, we're not going to go through every game, but we're going to pick about 3-4 games that intrigue us. Let's kick it off with what game, Gager, is a gimme game here? If you're going to create a parlay.
The gimme game.
I would have said Cincinnati last week. So I would have been completely wrong there.
Yeah. I think if I look at it, I think the gimme is Houston over Chicago.
Yeah.
I think that's the gimme.
I'm going to go a little different. I'm going to go Detroit Lions over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Listen, I know the Bucs put up some good numbers last week, but I do think Detroit's probably second or third best team, depending on who you ask.
I
in
think
the
that's
NFC.
still going to be a good game, though.
Yeah. But I think Detroit's going to win.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go with our upset of the weekend.
Ooh, the upset. That's a good one, too. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that's an upset yet. I'm not picking the Giants. That's for sure. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Maybe New England over Seattle. Would that be an upset?
You know what? I was looking at that one, and I have the same question. Is that an upset because they won?
Yeah,
in week
I know.
one?
I know. So it's weird that. There's two I could look at. So after seeing the Rams play, maybe Arizona over Los Angeles, just because of the injuries, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that would still be considered an upset.
Yeah, that's actually an intriguing one there.
Because Puka Nacua, how do you say his name? The wideout.
Puka Nacua?
Puka Nacua, that's it.
He's out.
Yeah, he's out, right? So, and I think their offensive lineman is out too. Like there's a few injuries there. Have to get the game stats with that. But I think that's a game that Arizona could possibly sneak and win.
Again, I don't know if this is an upset because of the Green Bay's quarterback situation, but Indy winning in Lambeau, I'd say that's an upset, even without Jordan Love.
Yeah. I don't know.
How about New Orleans over Dallas?
I think that game's a toss-up, to tell you the truth. Like I look at that game as being one of the best games of the weekend.
Because Dallas, they played well, but Cleveland was awful offensively.
I know, but New Orleans spanked Carolina. So two teams coming in after slapping around their opposing competition the week prior, feeling good about themselves. I look at that game; it's going to be and we'll look for Tom Brady to bounce back with a stellar performance in the booth. I think that's the game he's doing.
Yeah, I'm gonna sprinkle some on the Colts in Wisconsin there. And now, how about your game of the week? A must watch.
Oh, it's easy. Kansas City, Cincinnati, and I know Cincinnati sucked, but Joe Burrow. I think he has is the most successful quarterback against KC over the last few years. So seeing Mahomes and Joe Burrow go up against each other once again, I think that's going to be the must-watch one.
I'm going to go with San Francisco. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, there's not a lot of matchups where you're like, wow, I got to watch that game. You brought up in the break New York, Tennessee, because I just want to watch Aaron Rodgers and see how they bounce back. Because I'm not saying Tennessee's this great team, and I'm expecting it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Rodgers does, I guess.
I think the game of the week, and I already picked them for my gimme game, is Tampa Bay, Detroit.
That'll be good.
Baker Mayfield.
Great week one.
Jared Goff. And then the Monday Nighters, Atlanta at Philadelphia. I mean, I think that's a gimme game too, especially with how Kirk Cousins played in that first game. And I was watching clips on Twitter yesterday, and some reporters were like watching his movements at practice, and they're like, he's not moving well. There might be something there with that, but he is an older quarterback, and they got the Penix, the young guy there, waiting in the wings also. I think Kirk Cousins has to get going here, or he might be replaced here. Zach, you got a game you're going to be watching this weekend?
Well, I'm a Seahawks fan, so
man,
I'll be watching the Seahawks. But besides that, honestly, I think I'll be watching the Jets and Titans.
Yes.
Titans have good offense. They're exciting. I like the Lions as well. That Lions-Bucks game, I feel like, is going to be very, very interesting. And then the obvious one, Bengals and Chiefs, two high-powered teams. So those are the three games I'll be watching. And then maybe tuning in for the Texans and Bears as well.
As a 49ers fan, what made you a Seahawks fan?
Well, 5 or 6 years ago or something, when Russ Wilson was still on the team.
When he was cooking.
When he was cooking. When he was cooking, because he did cook at one point. When he was cooking at that point, I looked at his play and I thought he was so exciting. And then I also had DK Metcalf in my fantasy, and he was really good that one of the seasons that I became a fan. So I was like, you know what? I like their colors. Their team build looks pretty good. Why not start cheering for them? And now I guess I'm still a fan. I don't know. I'm not a diehard Seahawks fan, but they're the team I pay the most attention to.
You have a jersey, a Seahawks jersey, right?
Yeah, I have a couple. I have a fake. I think they're both fake, actually. My thrift shopping experiences have came up with some fake jerseys, but I have a Russ Wilson jersey and then a Marshawn Lynch jersey as well.
Are you a big Geno guy?
Geno's okay. I mean, it's a quarterback to place in that spot. He showed well last year, and he earned his money for sure, but I'm not sold on him. I don't think he's the best choice for the team moving forward. He's a good quarterback. He is. He's fought into that spot, and he bounced around as a backup, but just to be the starter, I don't know if it's a long term.
If he can take you to that next step, right?
Yeah, it'll kind of have the team wavering a little bit. He can make some plays here and there, but I don't think I'll put all my money on Geno Smith throughout the entire season. So.
Have you been to a game in Seattle?
I have not been to the States. I still have lots of things to do. I went to BC for the first time last week, missing the first week of the show. I know I'm a little baby, as Tommy would say. I have lots to do.
Yeah. No. On the Nasty Chat, LaBomba guy says Vikes over the 49ers. He's calling that one for an upset. Dances with Wolf says Arizona over the LA Rams, which is the one I think you picked, Gager.
Yeah.
I'm just checking in to see if anything on the inbox. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'll probably sprinkle. There's no parlay up there for us on CoolBet, so I don't know if the boys did one this morning or not. I was listening, but I might have missed it, or they might have not done one. But with this many games, I always look for help because it's overwhelming with the prop bets. I just never know where to go.
Yeah, no, it's I just try to keep it simple. 3 picks. That's all you do, right? Anything over that, it's just, I know it's enticing with the parlays and stuff like that, but keep it simple.
But I'm with you. Less picks, more money, and you make more money, and it's easier to hit. Because I'll tell you, my nephew sends me his prop bets on Sunday, and it's like 15 things, and he's been close, but it's funny because you'll bet $5 and you can win like 900.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
And I saw some buddies on Twitter, and they needed a touchdown, and all they did was pick guys to score touchdowns. Like they had 10, and they hit on all of them, and we won.
Really?
And won I think it was like $10,000.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
Oilers rookies open the Young Stars tonight as they take on the Vancouver Canucks. 8:30 start time here in Edmonton. You can watch on Oilers Plus. Gager just let me know that he will be watching that game, so we'll get a full recap.
We'll have it on
Monday. Yeah, you're not going to be too focused on it. Some local content. U of A Golden Bears are on the road to face the Manitoba Bisons. The Bears are 1-1. Manitoba is 2-0. And some interesting news from the CFL yesterday. The team hasn't made it official, but the player did on his socials. Montreal Alouettes star receiver Tyson Philpott, will be out for the season with a foot injury. He is expected to be ready for training camp in 2025. He had 58 receptions for 779 yards and 5 touchdowns in 9 games this season. Gager, like, this guy was probably going to be, the Canadian of the year.
Yeah.
He was probably going to be in the conversation for MOP.
Did this injury, where did this injury come from? That's the thing. Like, it kind of popped up out of nowhere. Did it not?
That's a good question. Yeah, because I don't know if he got hurt in practice or in a game.
Yeah.
But he just landed on the 6th game, and I guess the way it was trending, it wasn't working just with rehab and all that. He will have surgery and be ready for next year. And his brother in Calgary, another standout player, we'll be talking about him coming up next as we have Danny Austin. Of course, tonight, CFL action as the BC Lions host the Toronto Argonauts. Our guy, Dustin Nielsen, will be calling that game with Glenn Suter and the Edmonton Elks. I'm thinking because they play Saturday, they play the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It's going to be an enormous game, a great crowd expected once again there. Check out the tailgate as well. I'll be there this time for sure. I don't know if you're going to be slinging the good old.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. There's contract disputes in the concessions lately, so we'll have to see. I might be a civilian. Who knows?
That's going to be interesting. But I think the Elks will return to the field, if I'm guessing, man, for a day A, maybe Sunday, because then day one would be day one would be Tuesday, so they'd be on the field for sure then, and then obviously a 5:00 start down at Commonwealth Stadium on the 21st of September. But we got to get ready here for Danny Austin from Post Media in Calgary as we'll talk Flames, Stamps. That's all coming up next here on EST Afternoons with Hernan Salas and Joaquin Gage. Sports Update with Zachticum coming up.
Travis Dermott has signed a professional tryout with the Edmonton Oilers. He was drafted in the 2nd round back in 2015 by the Leafs and has suited up for the Leafs, Canucks, and most recently, the Coyotes. The rookies hit the ice tonight in Penticton with the Oilers rookies taking on the Canucks rookies for the Young Stars Classic. Face-off goes at 8:30. In the Canadian Football League, the Lions meet the Argos with our very own Dustin Nielsen on the call. Kickoff for that game is at 8 o'clock. Russell Wilson is questionable for Sunday's game against the Broncos. He sat out in Week 1 with a calf injury, and it seems like Justin Fields will be taking the reins as starting QB for the next game. Ravens rookie Nate Wiggins has been involved in a car accident and won't suit up Sunday's game against the Raiders. Wiggins is the 4th player from the Ravens this summer to be a part of a car crash. Danny Austin from Post Media in Calgary will be joining Hernan and Gager just after the break to talk some Stamps and some Flames. I'm Zach Kubusch, and that was your Edmonton Sports Talk update.
Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
You've always known GCL Diesel as the experts in diesel fuel systems, but did you know that GCL is also your source for turbochargers and turbo repair? As a turbo supplier for Garrett, Borg Warner, and Holset, GCL can provide genuine original equipment turbos at wholesale prices. Whether it's diesel, gas, natural gas, or performance, we can provide you with the turbo or custom repair you require. Turbo questions? We've got turbo answers. Visit us in the West End or online at GCLDiesel.com. GCL Diesel, turbochargers, understood.
At A&W, you can start the morning off right with a regular coffee and an egger of your choice for just $4.99. Bacon and egger or sausage and egger on a seeded bun or an English muffin? The choice is yours. But we know it'll be tasty either way. And to make matters even more delicious, this offer is available all day. But don't snooze on this deal. An egger and a regular coffee for only $4.99 is a limited time price. Available at participating A&W restaurants in Greater Edmonton.
Wake up with the Nielsen Show with Dustin Nielsen and Lieutenant Eric. Weekday mornings 6 to 9 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
6:23 here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. TST afternoons. Hernan Salas, Joaquin Gage, and Zach Kubusch joining you this afternoon as we get ready for the weekend and finally some Oilers hockey. It's the Young Stars edition. They take on the Vancouver Canucks tonight at 8:30. You can watch that game on Oilers Plus. Gage is going to have a full recap on Monday, breaking down both games that take on the Calgary Young Stars tomorrow. But we're ready to roll here with Danny Austin from Post Media in Calgary. We'll talk some Flames and Stamps. Danny, are you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
How you doing,
Beautiful,
Danny?
then. Yes, I'm here, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, first of all, Danny, I just want to commend you on how you've covered and shared the wonderful tributes in Calgary for Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, especially in dealing with many of the players and staff who were close to Johnny with so much emotions. I know it's not an easy thing to do, and you guys down there did an excellent job during a very difficult time.
Thanks. I really appreciate you saying that. I think that for all of us, that's something that's still ongoing a little bit. We're obviously only a couple days removed from the funeral, but it was one of those ones where I do think that your sports loyalties sort of this one transcended them. And I will say that, like, I know down here in Calgary, the support that Edmonton has shown, Oilers fans who showed up, to the candlelight vigil and were supportive and wanted to be there. It's been a pretty amazing thing and a reminder of, why some of us do this, because there are lots of days where you log on to Twitter and you're like, what am I doing? This isn't worth it. Yes. But it was, it felt important doing it over the last couple of weeks. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries, Danny. Just great job once again. Let's get to the big club here as camps will open next week. We'll get to the Young Stars game here in a sec, but what are the vibes down there? I know additions, Walker Duehr, Anthony Mantha, Ryan Lomberg. I know they've added a bunch of defensemen there, similar to Edmonton, Jared Tenorti, Tyson Barrie on the PTO. Let's start with the D-core. Are they just bringing in these guys to see what sticks there for the bottom three of that D-core? Because with Rasmus Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar, you're pretty much set there. But a lot of defensemen coming in here, and is it just a case of who shows up and earns a spot?
Yeah, I imagine Tenorti will see him sort of bouncing between the Wranglers and the Flames. Like, realistically, you've got Weegar and Anderson as your top two. I don't know that they're going to play together, but those are your top two defensemen where you're building everything around it this year. I think that Jake Bean is going to get a really, really, long look and will sort of be treated as the number 3 and 4. They brought in a guy, Kevin Ball, I believe his name is. He was in the Markstrom trade. So, Daniil Miramanov they got last year. Like, there's probably 5 guys who you can comfortably say those are going to be every day, assuming they stay healthy, 82 game players. And with everyone else, I do think you're sort of fighting for that 6th spot. I'm very curious what happened with Tyson Barrie. I don't think you're going to be happy if Barrie's your number 1 or number 2. He's not going to be necessarily quarterbacking the power play, but at this point in his career, I mean, we know he can still play. There's no harm having him around. So, I think that the Flames, like, they're past Anderson and Weegar, and I don't think how long Anderson is here for. This is a bit of a transitional year, and I'm going to kind of repeat that. I promise you. I'll give you a sneak preview of my next couple answers. Everything is a transitional year. The goal isn't to be good, so it's like, they signed these guys on 1-2 year contracts. The idea is come in, play, maybe you earn your next contract here or elsewhere. But if you're wondering whether I think that they're going to be one of the elite D-cores in the league, like, I obviously don't.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say the direction of the Flames is going to say? You say transitional year, but I mean, you see a team with almost $20 million in cap space. They have 2 first picks in the first, 2 picks in the second. Is it a kind of wait and see how the season begins, and then maybe how do you see this team kind of rebuilding and getting back to where they were before? Yeah,
I mean, they're not allowed to say word rebuild, but I certainly am. I think that honestly, I mean, and I have a lot of time for the job Craig Conroy has done so far. I think that he was given a really tough job when he took over last summer from Brad Treliving. They had to rebuild. They had to trade away all the veterans who were going to be UFAs, the Chris Tanevs, the Noah Hannafins, Elias Lindholms, Nikita Zadorov, Tyler, I can spend half the segment just listing the guys. So no, I don't think that there's any wait and see. The players will say the right things. The coaches will say the right things about them trying to be competitive. And I do think that they want to go and be a hard team to play against. But the most important thing over the next 12 months for the Calgary Flames is that they get a future number one center in the draft next year. So I would anticipate them being a bottom 5 team. I think that the best thing possible would for them to be a bottom 3 team. I don't know that they're that bad, but I think that the organization understood that they had to start from scratch. The team that Brad Treliving built, they should have probably blown up the second that Johnny Gaudreau signed elsewhere, and they probably should have traded Matthew Tkachuk for young pieces instead of Jonathan Huberdeau, who's here for another 7 years at $10.5 million and is putting up 55 points. So this team, it's not a failure if they lose a lot of games this year, and that's just every team has had to go through that at one point or another, and that's where the Flames are at in the cycle. I really like Zane Parekh, who they got with the number 9 overall pick, probably the elite offensive defenseman in the CHL right now. They got a guy named Hunter Brzkevich in the trade for Lindholm, who is another top. So they're you talk about the D, in 3 or 4 years, this team might have the most exciting group of offensively minded defensemen in the entire NHL, but they're a couple years from that.
Danny Austin from Post Media in Calgary joining us here on EST Afternoons. Joaquin Gage, Hernan Salas. Danny, when we look in goal, Dan Vladar, Dustin Wolf, what kind of situation are we going to see here? Is this Dan Vladar's net, or are they going to go with the young guy? Is it going to be kind of like a close as you can get to a 50-50 split? How do you see the goaltending situation working out there in Calgary?
I love when you guys ask me questions where I genuinely don't know the answer. I don't think any of us do. I mean, Dustin Wolf in 2 years is going to be the starter. That's the hope. That's the goal. I suspect that you have to give Dan Vladar a little bit more time and sort of, what Dustin Wolf, the most games he's played in the season, I think is 12. So you're ramping him up. He doesn't need to be playing 60 games this year. So I suspect that Dan Vladar is sort of penciled in as the number 1, but you are looking for competition. And if Dustin Wolf plays better and gives you a better chance of winning a few games, then then you're going to give him more time. But the reality is, Dustin Wolf, there is nothing wrong with him not being the full-time starter for the next 2 seasons. The point is, he's up in the NHL, he's learning, he's seeing those bullets that are coming full speed at him, and that's what you want. So I think what I will be curious is to see whether the split is Vladar plays against the good teams where you might get shelled, like the Oilers, or if they're willing to give Wolf some of those starts where, unfortunately, I mean, he might be letting in 5-6 goals, but not quite a 50-50 split. Dan Vladar, I suspect, is the starter, and if I'm wrong and you guys want to play this back for me in a month, then I will gladly apologize, because I don't actually know. They're not revealing their plan to us lowly newspaper guys a month before the regular season starts.
You mentioned some of the young guns already in Penticton. I believe they play the Oilers tomorrow night. On the Flames side of things, who should we be watching? As you mentioned the dynamic on defense, are there any forwards that might catch the eye of some fans watching that game?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us are really interested about this guy, Andrew Basha. He was drafted, I believe, 2nd round this year. You know how it is in Alberta, right? He's an actual Calgary guy. He's not he's not from the suburbs of Calgary. His parents own a pub that a lot of people know just up in Marble Loop up the road from me. So people want him to succeed. And he's he's on the Medicine Hat team that, is one of the favorites for the WHL championship. That's where he'll spend the year. But, he's one of their top 3 forwards. Has a little bit of Matthew Tkachuk in him. He's got that tenaciousness, doesn't mind getting under people's skins a little bit, but it was also a pretty high-end offensive guy. So I think we're really excited for him. The question mark for all of us in Calgary is Samuel Honzek. Was their first-round draft pick a couple of years ago. Slovak, I believe is the right term. I'll get emails about that. Had a really injury-affected year last year in the dub, and so we have no idea where he's at in terms of progress, but a year ago, all of us were wondering, is there any chance that he's probably not going to stick around? He's probably a year away. Now it feels like he's a year away again. But the nice thing about us having the Wranglers here is the AHL club is in town. So if he gets off to a hot start, I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing. But because of the injuries, because he is a number one or a first round pick, he's a guy I'd be keeping an eye on. He's a guy who I know that there's interest for Calgary. I don't think he's ever going to be Connor McDavid. So I don't know if at Edmonton anyone's going to be watching and being like, is that the guy who's going to make this rivalry matter again? But those are the two who I think I'm keeping an eye on closest.
Well, thank you for introducing us to Andrew Basha and making comparisons to Tkachuk, because I guarantee you to all the Edmonton Oilers fans that are listening right now already hate him.
I know. It was intentional. I try to be a pro here. But he might be a guy in 5 or 6 years who guys are cursing his name.
We're on to you, Danny. We're on to you. Let's switch gears here to the CFL of a big game for the Stamps on Saturday. They host the Montreal Alouettes, who are coming off a loss, so it's going to be a really tough game there. Some struggles going on down there in St. Peter's land. They're going back to Jake Mayer. Matthew Shields will back up. He's been hurt for most of the season. I mean, Danny, this was the right move all along. It has to be Jake Mayer. I guess I want your feedback as well. How long is the leash for Jake Mayer with Matthew Shields ready to play again?
I think that if Matthew Schultz had been backing up for 3 weeks, like had he been a full participant in practice, I'd probably give you a slightly, better answer. I think Jake Mayer, like honestly, when you cover the CFL is a sport that appeals to older people, so they also read newspapers still, and then they tend to email those newspaper reporters. The number of people who were just calling for Jake Mayer's head, I haven't heard a word since they actually saw Logan Bonner in, because they all realized that he actually was the best option. So, and really Jake, there are games where he's not super inspiring, but other than the Labor Day Classic, he hasn't been the reason why the Stamps are bad. So I think it was the right move after the Labor Day Classic, which just matters so much in Calgary. You had to bench him for a game. I think in part just in the locker room, there has to be accountability for every player, and you needed to show people that applies to the quarterback as well. But then, Logan Bonner, I don't want to pick on a guy making his first professional start, but he was pretty bad, last week in Edmonton. So I think that part of what that did was buy Jake more time, and all those fans who were convinced that he was the problem, they now see that no, there are bigger problems here, unfortunately. So maybe it's Matt Schultz in a couple of weeks, but they got to ride Jake out. He's a starting quarterback. You can go get someone else in the offseason. But for now, man, starting quarterback matters. There's a reason why teams don't just switch their starting quarterback midseason with any real regularity.
You're saying that Mayer isn't the problem. Does it?
It's part of the problem.
Part of the problem. I'm just saying, looking on the Dave Dickinson side of things, does his job security hinge on the rest of the season and how the Stampeders finish this if he's going to be at the helm next year?
Yes. I don't know if his job security in terms of he'd lose both GM and head coach. But, you guys are asking me as if this is a 1 year thing. There has been a regression that's been going on for they haven't won a playoff game since 2018. I know it's been worse in Edmonton, but at least Edmonton looks like it's on the come up. It has been taking one step back after another, and they haven't come close in any of those playoff games. They've been smoked. So for me, I would love to see a guy like Mark Killam get a shot. I don't know. I believe that Dave is capable. I think that in the CFL, we all like to say no one should be GM and head coach. And it's actually people don't actually understand what a GM in the CFL does. It's not, you have scouts, you have people running your player personnel. It's not impossible to do, but potentially there does need to be a new voice. I'm not calling for his head, but I do think that everyone around Calgary is able to recognize that what's happening isn't working. And see, there have to be changes if they're probably going to finish as the worst team in the league. You guys called it a big game for the Stamps against Montreal. It probably is, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like they're lambs going into the slaughter a little bit.
Danny, one last one here for you, and just on kind of what's going on there. Reggie Beggleton, just seen stuff online that he said other industries, the Stamps locker room is navigating the challenges of different generations working alongside one another, alluding to maybe the younger generation. There's a bit of entitlement there. Is there a bit of a riff in that room? I mean, you might not know, but is there something to what he said this week?
Yeah, I mean the writer of that story should thank me for playing them some quotes earlier and me being like, I don't want to make them public because I wanted to protect Reggie a little bit. Reggie has said, I think that there is a rift. I think that there's a rift between the younger players and the veterans. I think there's a rift between the few remaining players who were here sort of from 2014 to 2018 when this team was by far the best team in the CFL year after year.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't win many Grey Cups. And I think that there's a rift between the offense and the defense, if I'm being honest with you. I think there's all sorts of it's hard to be a happy locker room when the expectation was success and what you've basically done. I mean, they've won a couple games, but like they beat Hamilton in week 1. They beat BC in a game where like they nearly died on the field. They had to work so hard for it. And then they beat a Toronto team that didn't have its starting quarterback. So of course there's rifts, but the generational thing, like, look, Reggie's got his opinions on, entitlement and what have you. I think more than that, it's just guys are frustrated.
Yeah.
And you begin to point fingers when you get frustrated.
Danny, great breakdown on the Calgary Flames and the Calgary Stampeders. Enjoy the weekend because it's going to be busy as the NHL camps open on September 18th. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Love your passion for the CFL. Don't ever change, Danny. And we'll chat soon here.
You bet. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
This is Danny Austin from Post Media in Calgary. Interesting, that riff in the room of older and younger guys. And, I was in a locker room for the last 2.5 years. And I just don't see what the young guys would be so entitled to. Playing time or...
It's a different breed.
Yeah, man. Know? Like it's interesting there. And again, it was on TSN and it's unfortunate because that organization's been at the top always. Like I think if they missed the playoffs the first time since 2004, and you brought up a great point, is Greg Dickinson job on the line or one of his jobs?
Yeah. I mean, like we were talking about this on Two Guys yesterday. When a young player comes in, and his approach to coming into a pro locker room with established veterans, no matter if he's the number 1 pick overall, regardless, there has to be some humility. You don't want someone cowering and sucking their thumb in the corner, and you want a confident individual, but a little bit of respect to the guys that have done it before. I think bodes well for we've been talking about just culture of all sports in locker rooms, things like that around here, and that's a key. Mm-hmm. You can't, and I think look no further than the decade of darkness. With the Edmonton Oilers anointing all these young guys as treating them like 10-year vets that have actually accomplished something at the highest level. You start believing your own press clippings of how great you are, and it's a fine line. And right then you can see if that's created a rift between young and old in a dressing room. I've never been part of something like that. Like someone would have squashed that already, and that would have been either the coaching staff or the veterans, like the captains of the team, getting everyone together saying, hey, look, we can't do this. Like we have to, how are we supposed to beat someone else when we're all fighting inside?
Yeah. And to be clear, I was with the Edmonton Elks. I never saw that. I'm just saying, like, you see guys from different walks of life, and everybody that gets to this level, you're a star somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there is ego, and there, there's maybe the guys that come from the NFL and think it's a lesser league and I should be playing. And I think it happens a lot, and I think every team goes through it too. Maybe not to the extent that maybe Calgary's going through it now, but like you said, you played pro for so many years and you never saw that. I didn't see it either on a personal level. And
if there was, it was squashed big time. Like,
and that's your leader saying, okay, this is not how it flies. And so very interesting what's going on there in Calgary. And they're in tough, man. They're taking on the Montreal Alouettes, who are coming off a loss. They're going to be angry, but and I mean, if you're an Edmonton Elks fan, you want Montreal to win.
Oh yeah,
just to create some distance
just a little bit more.
Because I think they have a game in hand, Gage, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
I think they'll match the Elks this week. in games. So I know the green and gold faithful are hoping for a loss. All right, Danny Austin, great stuff. He's so passionate and honest. That's what just some of the questions. He's like, I wish I could tell you. Like, I really don't know. The goaltending one in Calgary is an interesting thing to track as we go forward through training camp as well. But we're going to wrap up this show up next. Final segment here on EST Afternoon. It's been a fun show. Keep hitting us up on the EST Nasty Chat or on the inbox at 780-218-9999. We wrap up EST Afternoons next with Joaquin Gage and Hernan Salas. But first, here's Zach Kubusch with a sports update.
Travis Dermott has signed a professional tryout with the Edmonton Oilers. The former Leaf was drafted in 2015 and most recently played 50 games last season for the Coyotes. The Oilers rookies hit the ice tonight in Penticton playing the Canucks rookies for the Young Stars Classic, going tonight at 8:30. And former Flyer Wayne Simmons has been announced as the team's community relations ambassador and hockey operations consultant for the upcoming season. He played 8 of his 15 seasons in the NHL out in Philadelphia, recording 378 points over 584 games with the team. Tonight, it's the Argos against the Lions in the lone CFL game at 8. EST's very own Dustin Nielsen will be making the call for that one. Russell Wilson is questionable for Sunday's game against the Broncos. He sat out week 1 with a calf injury. And it seems like Justin Field will be getting the start this week again for the Steelers. Coming up next, it's Hernan and Gager wrapping up the show here on EST Afternoons. The Reed Wilkins Show is to come at 3 o'clock. But for now, I'm Zachary Kubusch, and that was your Edmonton Sports Talk update.
Your brand deserves more than just a whisper, it deserves a buzz. At the Hive Product Marketing, they specialize in promotional products that bring the buzz. From eye-catching giveaways to unforgettable keepsakes, they got the perfect products to make your brand stand out and get noticed. Visit the Hive Product Marketing and let them create the buzz your business deserves. The Hive Product Marketing, the official merch partner of Edmonton Sports Talk. Visit them online at thehiveproductmarketing.com.
You want the heavy hitters on your team, both on and off the ice. If you've been injured in a car accident, call the heavy hitters of injury law. James H. Brown and Associates, Alberta Injury Lawyers. With over 200 years of combined injury law experience, their precedent-setting lawyers are ready to help. Locally owned and proud Edmonton Oilers fans, James H. Brown and Associates wants to support you with their unrivaled experience, unrivaled results, and unrivaled commitment. When accidents happen, head to jameshbrown.com.
Edmonton Sports Talk delivers a mass audience of key, influential customers to your business, all while you associate your company brand with the biggest names, the hottest sports news, and teams from every league around the globe. Oilers and Elks, NHL, NFL, Major League Baseball, and the association, Formula One, soccer, golf. Oh, sweet mama! The excitement is palatable on Edmonton Sports Talk. It's where fans go to get their sports fix and where our partners find the most loyal consumers. Contact us today and see how our team on Edmonton Sports Talk can score the biggest goals for your business. With various advertising options available, email business@edmontonsportstalk.com or head to our website and send a message at edmontonsportstalk.com.
Oh, really?
.47 EST Afternoons here on Edmonton Sports Talk. The Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Millen coming up 3 to 6 to close out the weekend. We'll be back Monday, and then it's full goal. I was going to say Oilers, but NHL training camps open. The Elks in a big game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You know what I noticed, Gager, when we had Danny Austin on? We had a big bump in views. in watching. It jumped from like 105 to like 155, and I think a lot of them came over from WST, the Hustlerites.
Okay.
Yeah, so we appreciate that, giving us a little bump on this Friday afternoon.
Yeah, well, I see the thumbs are at a sweet Mario Lemieux. Let's get those at a sweet.
Let's get it to you.
Great one, and we can all go into this weekend happy.
There's 125 watching. If 66 of you have hit the thumbs up, the remaining hit it right now. And let's see if we can get to 100. And just like the morning boys say, changing 100.
We're a Yager right now. That's great.
Oh, nice. I love it. Love it. So shout out to, the WSTers that came on and checked out Danny Austin, who really brought the good stuff. Very honest assessment of both Calgary Flames and Calgary St. Peters. It's weird because both teams might be in for really tough seasons.
Yeah. No, it's dark days.
And they won. And they never used the word rebuild in Calgary. Just interesting.
Well, I can see why they might. Is there the ability to retool on the fly here? Do you think? They got a couple Noose contracts, but again, they do have $20 million in cap space. Right? It's just if you're ever gonna, I mean, you hope that Huberdeau finds something and can get somewhere back to where he was before. Just goes to show you how really good Barkov was. Hey, he hit a lot of stuff. I think with John, and I think Jonathan Huberdeau's a really good player, but. Yeah, it's he's just going to be tied to that number, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that length. It's just when they did do it, I thought it was okay. They're kind of replacing it a little bit, and it really hasn't worked out for Huberdeau. And maybe we heard earlier from was it David that was talking about with Austin Matthews and maybe with Pajama Johnny there. He might have a little bit less, not having the burden of the sea to perform. And just because the Flames aren't counted on doing anything, maybe Huberdeau just can get back to everything without having the microscope on him.
Yeah, and this is coming from, we cover the Oilers, and I think their defense is a little suspect. I think Calgary's is that well. Like you said, Backlund, older, Coleman, I don't think we can expect another season like he did last year because he's not a guy that puts up points like that on the regular. They added Anthony Mantha, who's been kind of all over the place lately. Serengovich, excellent season, but we'll see. And Kuzmenko's probably the most inconsistent forward on that team. When he's hot, he's good for 5-6 games and disappears for 10. So,
I like Coleman. Like I think
I like him too.
Yeah. He's a 4.9. He's a guy that you could possibly move at the deadline and get something back, right? Backlund for sure. Like you got to think that he's gone at the deadline. Uyghur, Anderson. Yeah. There's 5 guys there that there's a really good possibility that aren't Flames by the end of this upcoming hockey season.
100%. Yeah. So we'll see. Yes. Phyllis confirms. Yay. We're from WST. Happy to be here.
Sweet.
Matt
Phyllis.
Hyman says WST Ray, laughing out loud. And we're at 81 thumbs up. Let's keep that going. We're only 19 away. It'd be the first time we ever hit 100 here. Hey, this day in sports history, I just wanted to get to this. You're a former goaltender. This guy was public enemy number 1 here, as many Flames were back in the heyday, the 80s, early 90s. Mike Vernon on this day retired after a 19-year career in the NHL in 2002. I'll say this about Mike Vernon. Obviously, as an Oiler fan growing up, I didn't like him, but what I liked about him was his gear. I'm old school. I like the helmet, just the old cage, and then the puffy pads and all that. He's one of the best setups. That's why I loved Chris Osgood, because I love that old school mask, and I wish someone would bring that back.
Well, one of the best masks I saw was when Mike Smith had the tribute to Mike Vernon, it looked like like the mask. That was tight. And then he went to the mask when he got to Detroit, won a Stanley Cup there too. But no, what a goalie. So good. Hated him. Just hated him. He'd always Flames Canucks. There was years there when they finally, when was it 92 or whatever, when they got past Bure, scored on him, just left him in the corner. That was unreal. Unreal.
But yeah, obviously you wore those helmets, but did you ever wear them in pro, like just the old school lid with a cage on it? Like
I had the cat's eyes with the Cooper lid. I looked like Osgood, right?
Yeah.
That's until my first year junior, and then I actually got a mask. Big difference.
Which one's better?
There was different thoughts because, God, I'm so weird sometimes. I read a book called Into Thin Air. It's the ascent of Everest, and there's a lot of it in that book that talks about the value of oxygen. And I always thought, well, why doesn't Hasek wear the mask? And I thought because you can breathe better because that whole chin cup isn't right in front of you, right? So I had theories on that and stuff. I still wore the mask, but I had it cut a little bit lower later on just so I could breathe better when I was sucking wind on a penalty kill or something like that and not passing out. But, that's a great picture. Yeah, Mike Smith. It's up there now. You can have a look of Mike Vernon's.
Great job, Zach. Yeah, that's probably the best lid of the last couple of years.
From a distance, it looked so cool on Mike Smith.
I wish more goalies would go to that option. Or
just
that
looking. I'd like to see them even be more creative. I always there was one year I took it to a body shop and had a guy just paint some stuff on my mask. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, because you could if you look at Mike Vernon right now or Chris Osgood that he has up there right now, you can still design that lid and have that style.
And I think even Hasek, he had a custom-made beanie top too. Like he had it all fitted to his head.
See, but Hasek's was different because I didn't like the grill, the mask part. Yeah, it was different.
But again, you could breathe it like it was just the cage, right? So
how about the Artis Urbe?
Oh, the Arturs. Yeah, the old Glenn Hanlon straight down Jofa. That was
Glenn Hanlon.
Yeah.
Hanlon, sorry. We're at 89 thumbs up. We got to wrap up here in about a minute or so. So if we can get 11 here, that would be amazing. Way to kick off the weekend and our second week, Gager. It's been good. It's been fun, feeling more comfortable. Chris Sadway on the inbox says, really enjoyed that last bit. Let's fire it up into the weekend. Great week, too. Thank you for that, Chris. Really appreciate the support, all the downloads, all the views, and once the Oilers and the NBA and we'll be well into the NFL and the stretch run for the CFL playoffs, it's going to heat up here, Gage. We're going to have a lot of fun content.
Yeah, no, and the end of the F1 season's around the corner too, so it's going to be a race to the finish, so to speak.
Yeah, big shout out to Dave Alter from the Hockey News who previewed the Toronto Maple Leafs, everyone's favorite. Danny Austin who brought the passion and the honesty and covering the Calgary Flames and Stampeders. Big shout out to Zachticum, our first week with him. You've done excellent work, Zach. So happy to have you part of our show. How was the first week for you, Ben, on the new shows?
Oh, the first couple days were a bit rocky. I mean, some of the tech issues, and then I was saying some of the names wrong. When
some of them,
all of them. Islam Makhachev, I couldn't even say that name. Like when I did the UFC update, it was wild. Some of the names that I butchered that I was able to do. It's almost a talent.
I give you kudos for even trying to attempt those names. I totally would have left that out.
I know. I love the UFC so much, and I know those names behind the, without the cameras going on. That's my excuse, but I got a little bit nervous trying to get it right for you guys, and it did the reverse effect. So I'm feeling good now. I feel like I've been doing it good. The show's been running well. You guys have been amazing on the show, and going forward, I'm happy to be working with you guys.
Yeah,
awesome, Zach. Don't ever change.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Love the corduroy. Never stop worrying that. We're 3 away from 100, but we got to go. Big thank you to all the nasties out there. Everybody chimed in on the inbox at 780-218-9999. To all the WSTers chiming in today and bumping up the views for the good old EST afternoon show. We'll be back Monday. We'll talk a lot of Elks. We'll talk a lot of Oilers. We'll recap what's probably going to be a very interesting Sunday in the NFL.
I think we're at 99.
99. Let's go.
We got to Gretz here.
Let's go. That's what we wanted. We wanted to get to Gretzky. So thank you, everyone, for hammering that thumbs up. Enjoy the weekend. It's Reed Wilkins and Jay Milne coming up next.